Hi there, you're back to the Black Arrows testing of the new Parrot Anafi AI drone. I've put it today just as I'm just going to have a look at the sort of dimension comparison really, and we'll be doing a rain test a little bit later on in a separate video. But I've put it up here against the Mavic 2 Pro, so this is the one with the 20 megapixel 1-inch sensor. It's obviously not the latest, so the latest DJI is the Mavic 3, but given that most people out there who are using drones for professional work, whether it's photography or photogrammetry surveying, the highest percentage of people that I come across are using the Mavic 2 Pro. Some at the further end are using the Phantom 4 RTK, but that's at the $8,000 level. And this is why the Anafi is an interesting one at around $4,500 in the UK. It's an in-betweeny. So the Mavic 3, which is on sale now, the Mavic 2 isn't sold new. The Mavic 3 I think is around about 1,700, but realistically with the batteries that you'd need, you're looking at about $2,500. So that's still $2,000 less than the Anafi. Specs wise, at least from an operational point of view, they're all pretty similar. The Anafi's a little bit faster and it can deal with a little bit more wind than both the Mavic 2 here and the Mavic 3 and the new Mini 3 that's just come out from DJI. So it's a little bit better, but not $2,000 better. One of the really interesting things from a commercial point of view is its Ip53 rating. That's the Anafi AI's Ip53 rating. So that means if you're caught in some rain, you're operating in a bit of drizzle or something that has just come in, a squall or something, especially if you're by the coast, then it's going to be fine, and it will get back home. That could make a big difference depending on where you operate and how you operate. So we will do a rain test. It is raining today, so we'll do a rain test in a separate video. But yeah, so dimensions wise, to compare the two, obviously the drones, once they're folded out, are actually a similar size in their total footprint, as it were, but the bodies are of a different scale. The Mavic 3, so the latest version of this, but this being the Mavic 2, is of a similar dimension. As the sensors and positions of things are slightly different, but it's of a similar dimension. So you've got the battery here, and then when you compare it to the Anafi, we have that release underneath. So there's a big difference here. Flight time, again, it's broadly compatible. You're looking in realistic terms around 30 minutes. Obviously, again, depending in the conditions that you operate, temperature and wind speed wise. But this obviously makes up the lion's share of the frame here. The difference obviously is with the Anafi, with the Mavic, it has the omnidirectional sensors all the way around. That's how the design is based around. That's its safety feature. Whereas with the big difference here on the selling points of the Anafi AI is this nature inspired, as they refer to it, their directional and object sensing, the hardware, but also the software. That's the AI piece, that it's building an understanding of its environment. So when you move, so the direction you move, that changes then the direction of these sensors, and so it can see almost all the way around. So you can't actually see if you're flying backwards, if the sensors are pointed there is a blind spot. So depending on how you operate. Now, if you're using this photogrammetry work, then that's not going to matter very much, because you're going to be flying a autonomous path that's always going forwards. But if you're using it for free flight and you are flying near objects, then that might be something of a concern. But it's an interesting design again, but from a functional point of view, and we'll see as we get more flight time with it. So we wouldn't normally operate in the rain at all. Certainly with the fixed wing drones, we have been caught in rain if it's come in as a surprise, and have been able to get, finish up a job or what have you and get back safely. But with a Mavic, because the water can get through to the motors, you just wouldn't, and certainly shouldn't. But from a photogrammetry point of view, obviously if it is heavy rain, visibility is poor, you're just going to end up with a poor result. So you wouldn't normally operate in the rain anyway. But interestingly here, the motors that here are covered, so you're not worrying about rain coming down here. Interestingly, the fan here, which is extracting heat, as I understand it, that is fine with the water getting in, apparently. I've double checked, because I don't want to be the one that breaks it. But it's, but yeah, apparently they've flown it the full battery's worth 30 minutes in the rain and not had any issues, and it's got a formal Ip53 rating, so that's going to be interesting to test. So yeah, on the dimensions anyway, so we've already talked about the propellers and this edging here. So when it comes to the controllers, very, very different. Obviously with the iPhone or iPad, these arms come out for the Mavic, and you have the aerials here. You can add some third-party features to it, whether you're looking to try and extend the range or trying to change the joysticks and so forth. Here we've got the space. It also stretches out. I think you'd probably fit, you could fit a full-size iPad in between, so a much larger display. The ergonomics is very different. So if you were going to be flying this for a longer period of time, so over multiple batteries, this would feel better in your hand, although it's gloss and it is still plasticky. There's something to be said for the very solid, rubberized, grippy feel of the DJI. And again, we come back, the design I'm not quite skirting over, but it is very unique looking. I think I'm very much more interested in the result and its performance as far as the output, because at the end of the day, that's what, from a commercial point of view, the client is paying, not what the drone looks like. So I'm interested to see what the results look like over how it looks. It still looks a bit toyish to my eye, but again, if the results are significantly better, then that's necessarily sort of the price you pay for it. But yeah, so there's only a few buttons on here that are necessary anyway, as you have the iPad interface for more technical elements. The camera up and down, and then recentering. You can change some of the functions of these buttons on the interface and record up here and then zoom, power, and return home and take off and land. So they're all there. I did think initially that there wasn't a long enough cable to plug the iPad coming through here and then into the bottom. Actually discovered that that's actually for charging, and then that's the mini HDMI. So the actual cable which it came with, which is this one, it's supposed to be plugged into the side here. So there was actually enough length. So that's why you read the instructions. So yeah, and of course then the integrated aerial is on the top there. So that's that from a dimensions point of view. Again, we'll do it's raining pretty well now, so I think we'll go out and do a rain test and see what happens. So more videos coming shortly.